Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Season 1 Invitational in Roanoke, part of the SCG Tour, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside Mike Kerby, a good friend of mine and someone who plays a lot in the Roanoke area. And with the Invitational being in Roanoke, you get to finally play in one.
Yeah, it was really nice being able to just drive 15 minutes, not have to get a hotel, and sleep in my own bed for once.
That's a good recipe for success in Magic. And you've been playing the Blue-Red Emerge deck basically since the archetype existed, and you always kind of come back to it after the bannings.
Yes.
And here we are once again at Blue-Red Emerge, a deck that you're very comfortable with and you're doing quite well with.
Yes. So the biggest issues I've had with this deck are Marvel and Saheeli combo. So what do you know? Both of those get banned. This is in a pretty good position. I think right now, after the bannings, since we don't have any new cards coming in, I was able to just kind of take my stock list and run with it.
Now, what's the strength of this deck? You know, we see all the top decks in the format right now crushing the Magic Online leagues. Those are like Green-Black Energy, Temur Energy, Mardu, and then this deck has existed for a while. People know about it, but it always kind of has a sweet spot, you know, at the right time.
Yes. So the key advantages to this with a lot of the decks that I've been playing today and kind of the meta that I expected, there's a decent number of like very creature-heavy decks. You have your Black-Green Energy, you have your Temur Energy, like creature builds.
Zombies, of course.
Zombies is a big one, and Mardu vehicles. Even though it has heavy reliance on Hardikiran and Gideon, it's still creature-based deck. And this deck offers just a lot of good spot removal. Plus, Kozilek's Return is the big one, since you're able to flash it back with Elder Deep Fiend to completely wipe their board.
Right, I actually talked with Brennan DeCandio on his Temur Delirium deck, a person you beat yesterday in the tournament, but he had the same thought coming in. You know, we want to be maximizing Kozilek's Return right now and also using Deep Fiend to get its back end as well.
Yeah, so kind of go over a few things of the deck. You have two main game plans. One, you're trying to get out Elder Deep Fiend and kind of time walk your opponent. And two, you're trying to get a lot of value off of bringing back the two Stitchwing Scab, and Advanced Stitchwing to bring back your prized amalgams. This allows you to both clog up the board, keep them from really doing too much, and just alpha striking. Like on my match yesterday, I believe it was game 2, I was able to just tap them out and then swing lethal in one turn for 14.
Right, this deck packs a lot of punch when it's time to start attacking. You kind of stall, you kind of use your cantrips or your rummaging effects that are in red to kind of fill your graveyard, find the pieces you need, and then when it's time to strike, you can emerge a Deep Fiend and then just chain them together, and the game's over before the opponent can even do anything.
Yeah.
Now, we've had this deck for a while, and at the last Standard Open, Kevin Jones and Voss was playing the deck. They kind of worked on a deck. It was different, but you said your build is more kind of angled for this metagame right now.
This is honestly more of the original build when this deck started popping up. The big change they had was Blood Rage Brawler, in which I tried a few times, didn't really like. You have to be very careful with the number of cards that you discard with this deck. So due to the limited number of cards you have in your hand, plus your draw steps, like you can only bring back your Stitchwing so many times.
Right.
The Blood Rage Brawler is a nice discard outlet, but it also can put you down cards, versus I went with the old option of just Tormenting Voice and Cathartic Reunion that allows you to replace those cards as you build up your graveyard. I also opted to put in the 2 Fevered Visions main. There's also 2 more on the side. That's 1 to hedge against control matchups, and 2, if my opponent isn't really out of the gates fast, I don't mind them drawing some cards so that I can just build up to my big payoff with Elder Deep Fiend, some amalgams, and Kozilek's Return.
And when you look at this deck, you know, there's only so many ways to win, but it all kind of relies on the prized amalgams coming back, the Stitchwings coming back, and the Deep Fiends. And you also have Sanctum of Ugin in the deck that most of the Elder Deep Fiend decks utilize to kind of, once you get one, then they all start coming.
Yeah. So one of the key things I did want to mention with this deck, it might also explain some of my decisions that went on yesterday during my first game with Brendan. The key mana cost is 2 and triple blue, with both Stitchwing Scabs that allows you to bring them back and then immediately emerge them with Elder Deep Fiend. Usually you want a Sanctum of Ugin with your land so that you can continue to do this process, but that allows you with no board to tap out your opponent. One additional advantage is if you have Kozilek's Return in the graveyard and you're wanting to use its trigger, by bringing back the Stitchwings during your opponent's upkeep, that allows the prized amalgams to come out during the end step, so they don't get swept by the Kozilek's Return, allowing you to alpha strike the following turn.
Nice. So let's move on to the sideboard here, because we've got a bunch of answers to different kinds of decks. You said you already have the Fevered Visions there for the control matchups. Let's go over the other ones. You have Glorybringer, a card that I almost feel like should always be in your main deck because Glorybringer is so good.
It does feel that way sometimes. I've been bringing it in more consistently against the zombie matchups. They try to go a bit big. They also have their Lord effects, so things like Magma Spray and Fiery Temper don't work as the game moves later. Also a little bit worried that somebody's going to just get me with the black spell that removes all non-artifacts from your deck. They name a card.
Lost Legacy?
Lost Legacy. Ripping out all my Elder Deep Fiends and then leaving me with no real finishers, and it's very hard to grind the zombie deck out, especially if they have Crypt Breaker going.
Not bad when Glorybringer is your backup threat.
Yeah, of course.
You got a bunch of counter magic here too, kind of fighting the control decks. And then we'll touch on the last things. You have a Wretched Gryph, and then your 2 artifact destruction spells, Release the Gremlins and By Force.
Yes. Wretched Gryph is... So, I didn't really like the card at first. There were some versions that played one main deck just to give you the extra effect. The reasons you want to bring it in are, 1, you absolutely need to start chaining off with Elder Deep Fiend, triggering your Sanctum of Ugin, so you want to do it as consistently as possible. Or 2, you really need to hit Kozilek's Return. Like, if some spot removal isn't really working out for you, and you need that payoff in most games, especially zombies because they swarm the board, you bring that extra card in.
And then these, there's kind of rumblings of the Metalwork Colossus deck, but also Vehicles, is a deck that you're going to need to be able to blow up artifacts.
Yeah, I haven't run into any yet. I split it 1 Force, 1 Release the Gremlins, just depending on each matchup. One's better in against Vehicles, the other one's better against Metalwork.
All right, well, there's 3 rounds left. You're X3 fighting for that top 8. Standard is the name of the game to try to get you there. How do you feel?
I feel pretty good. I 4-0'd Standard yesterday, and I feel very confident with this deck against the meta.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck. Mike Kerby, thanks for joining me here in the sideboard.
Thank you, Nick.
Stay tuned at StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Roanoke.